I'm moving on. Like I'm just gonna live my life. I can't live in the past. I have to live in the present and in the future. So
when you say forgive all your enemies, who do you consider your enemies? Just anybody, naysayers, haters, whatever the case may be. I just think, being positive and promoting that is what I'm about, man. That's what I'm gonna do.
The entertainment world is on fire. Newspapers everywhere screamed the same headlines: Chris Brown faces legal trouble again. The secret hidden for over a decade has finally been exposed. Once again, the name Chris Brown left the world in shock. He was once the golden child of American music, hailed as the heir to Michael Jackson. A star who had it all: talent, looks, money, and the world at his feet. But today, every spotlight shines on him, not to praise, but to accuse. Shocking assaults, acts of betrayal, dark secrets that Hollywood once tried to bury. From the height of fame to the depths of disgrace, this is no longer just the story of a star, but the tragedy of an empire, where money, desire, and power turned a prodigy into a symbol of downfall. Chris Brown, was he the victim, or the man who created his own hell? Christopher Maurice Brown was born on May 5, 1989, in Tappahannock, Virginia, a small town of barely 2,000 people, known to almost no one. There were no factories, no malls, only churches, and a few lumber stores. His father, Clinton Brown, worked as a correctional officer at a local prison, a strict, quiet man hardened by years spent around criminals. His mother, Joyce Hawkins, was the opposite gentle kind and working at a daycare center in town. She was the woman who always believed her son was born to be different. But behind that small home were screams in the night moments Chris would never forget. When he was just 6, his parents divorced. Joyce remarried, but the new man in the house brought fear instead of peace. Chris once recalled in an interview that there were nights when he heard his mother crying, heard things breaking, but didn't dare step out of his room. I was too young to stop it. All I could do was pray and dream that one day I could take my mom away from there. Those silent emotional scars ran deep within the little boy's heart. From the age of 5, Chris was already singing. No one taught him, no one guided him. He simply imitated Michael Jackson from the old TV in the living room. At school, Chris wasn't the standout kid, but every time there was a church event, he would stand up and sing, and everyone would stop to listen. At summer fairs, he danced before crowds, as if he were already performing at Madison Square Garden. That poor boy began to dream of another world, one where his voice could take him away from a home full of tears, where music could drown out the sound of breaking glass each night. In 2002, when he was only 13, Chris began recording rough demos with a cheap bedroom microphone. A close friend of his mother heard them and introduced him to Hit Mission Records, a small local production group in Virginia that was scouting for young talent. They asked Chris to sing an Usher cover, and within 30 seconds, the studio went completely silent. This kid, there's something about him, one of the producers said. Hit Mission took Chris to New York to record demos and pitch them to major labels. But he was only 14, shy still, just a kid who liked to nap in the car while his mom drove long distances. Then in 2004, destiny finally arrived. Jive Records, the same label that launched Britney Spears and Usher, signed Chris to an exclusive contract. The boy from Virginia officially became the golden child of a new generation of R&B. From a small town with only 2 main streets, Chris flew to New York, then to Los Angeles. But the road to glory was not easy. He trained 10 hours a day in dance, recorded through sleepless nights, learned how to handle interviews, and how to smile even when exhausted. The 15-year-old boy in Jive Records studio had begun a long journey to the top. Chris Brown, the journey to becoming the Prince of R&B and the Price of Glory. In 2005, at the height of Usher and Justin Timberlake's fame, a 16-year-old from Virginia appeared Chris Brown. The first explosion run it and the R&B earthquake. On November 29, 2005, his debut album Chris Brown was released under Jive Records. Within weeks, the first single Run It, produced by Scott Storch and featuring Jules Santana, shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making Chris Brown the first male artist in 10 years to debut at the top. The song exploded like a lightning strike, ushering in a new era, youthful, sensual, and electric. The 16-year-old with curly hair and an innocent smile stopped America in its tracks. Rolling Stone wrote, "Chris Brown isn't a student of the game. He was born for the stage." The album sold over 3 million copies. Worldwide, earned 2 Grammy nominations and 3 Billboard Music Awards, and generated an estimated $15 million in its first year. Fans saw in Chris not just a singer, but the rebirth of Michael Jackson in the body of a 21st century star. After the storm of Run It Chris didn't stop, he continued his climb to new heights, the Prince of R&B, when America bowed to a boy. He returned to the studio to record his second album, Exclusive 2007, working with T-Pain, Kanye West, Will.i.am, and Lil Wayne. The hit Kiss Kiss quickly dominated the charts, followed by With You and Forever, confirming his title as the Prince of R&B. Exclusive sold over 5 million copies worldwide, grossed $35 million, and his Up Close and Personal tour sold out in 50 cities across the United States. At the MTV VMAs, Chris appeared in a silver jacket, pulled off a flawless backflip, and ended his performance in a roar that wouldn't stop. That moment, American media crowned him the new king of stage performance. He was only 18. Chris Brown wasn't even old enough to drink, but he already had it all: fame, money, and power. And he didn't stop there. Hollywood opens its doors. The storm of stardom. In 2007, he appeared in Stomp the Yard alongside Nayo, a film that grossed over $75 million, even though Chris only appeared for a few minutes. Later that year, he returned in the leading role of This Christmas, a warm musical drama that proved he wasn't just a singer, but a complete entertainer. Hollywood opened its doors. Studios began to call. People magazine named him one of the 25 most attractive men in the world. But while the stage lights shone brightly on his smiling face, a shadow slowly grew behind the curtain. The pressure, the contracts, the money, and the endless praise were pulling an 18-year-old boy into a storm between two worlds, the angel and the rebel. The first storm and the fall from grace love became a crack, and from that crack, an abyss opened. Everything began with Chris Brown's complicated and heartbreaking relationship with Rihanna, once his partner, his lover, and ultimately his deepest wound. Chris and Rihanna first met as teenagers, when she was about 16 and he was 15, at music events and shows where both were still finding their place. Gradually, they became one of the most talked about young couples in entertainment. Rihanna, the rising star from Barbados, Chris, America's R&B prodigy. They appeared together at major award shows, took photos side by side, and captured the attention of both fans and the press. For a while, they denied being in a relationship, but their eyes' smiles and moments on stage told a different story. At the time, their bond seemed full of promise, the new power couple of music. When Rihanna performed Umbrella, Chris stood beside her, and together they lit up the stage. Rihanna once said Chris had a great heart, funny, loving, a quote repeated in countless articles. But the closer they became, the heavier the pressure, fame, hectic schedules, temptation. And right when they were promising, "We'll always be together," the quiet cracks began to form. On the night of February 8, 2009, everything shattered. During a heated argument, Rihanna discovered a 3-page text message from another woman on Chris's phone. The fight erupted inside a rented Lamborghini in Los Angeles after a pre-Grammy event. Words turned into violence. Rihanna suffered visible injuries to her face and was hospitalized as the world watched in disbelief. Chris was arrested, and within days the media was flooded with images of Rihanna's bruised face. In less than 24 hours, Chris Brown went from America's brightest star to the man the world turned against. Radio stations banned his songs, brands dropped him, and sales of his hit album Exclusive plummeted. On June 22, 2009, Chris Brown pled guilty to felony assault. He was sentenced to 5 years of probation, 6 months of community labor, and mandatory counseling for domestic violence. In a later interview, Chris said, "I felt like a monster. I fell from the top all the way down." For 2 years, Chris nearly vanished from the spotlight. Rihanna, in a later interview, said she still missed his laugh, but admitted that the relationship had changed forever. Today, whenever Chris Brown or Rihanna appear in public, people don't just see artists. They see memories, scars, and a story that never truly ended. From America's golden boy, he became a symbol of public outrage. His career seemed finished. But in 2011, Chris Brown returned stronger than ever. His comeback album, FAME, Forgiving All My Enemies, was his answer to the world. Released on March 18, 2011, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling 270,000 copies in its first week and earning him his first Grammy Award for Best R&B Album. The FAME World Tour grossed $29 million, a massive number that marked his rebirth. Chris Brown was trying to stand again to win back his audience to perform under the lights once more. But something inside him had broken something that never truly healed. Behind every hit song was a man still fighting to control the anger the world had once seen explode. And soon the spotlight turned back into flashing police lights. Fights and arrests. The fire that never died. Good Morning America. When a star's rage broke the screen. On the morning of March 22, 2011, Chris Brown appeared live on Good Morning America at ABC Studios on 43rd Street, Manhattan. When host Robin Roberts brought up the 2009 assault incident, Chris remained calm on the outside, but tension filled his eyes. After the cameras stopped rolling, a loud crash echoed from the dressing room. According to reports, Chris stormed inside, threw a chair, and smashed a large window overlooking the street. Shattered glass fell onto the sidewalk below, prompting security and police to rush in. The next day, Chris publicly apologized on television. "I'm sorry for letting my emotions get the best of me yesterday. I was just exhausted, and I got reminded of something I've been trying to move past." The incident reinforced the public image of Chris Brown as an angry, volatile artist, not just a momentary outburst, but a visible reflection of unhealed fury. And Chris Brown was never the kind to hold back. The WIP brawl bottles blood and chaos in Soho. On the night of June 14, 2012, the WIP nightclub in Soho, Manhattan, a hotspot for celebrities, became a war zone. Chris Brown and his entourage were seated in the VIP section. Across the room was rapper Drake, long rumored to have been involved with Rihanna after her breakup with Chris. Witnesses said messages were exchanged through waitstaff. Drake reportedly responded by sending over a bottle, and that bottle flew across the room. In seconds, the club turned into chaos. Glasses shattered, chairs flew, lights fell, and blood was spilled. According to the NYPD report, at least 8 people were injured, including NBA star Tony Parker, who needed more than 20 stitches. Both Chris and Drake avoided criminal charges, but Parker's $20 million civil lawsuit made national headlines. The club lost its liquor license and was shut down temporarily for safety violations. Complex magazine wrote, "Anger, jealousy, and instinct, the 3 things Chris Brown has never been able to escape." Each incident added another crack to the image he had worked so hard to rebuild. But an even darker moment was still to come. The SWAT standoff, guns, and $1 million siege. On the morning of August 31, 2016, Los Angeles police received a 911 call from Bailey Curran, a former beauty queen, claiming that Chris Brown had pointed a gun at her during a house party at his Tarzana mansion. SWAT teams quickly surrounded the $6 million property. Helicopters circled overhead. American news outlets broadcast live coverage as hundreds of fans gathered outside. Inside, Chris went live on Instagram wearing a white t-shirt, his expression cold as he stared into the camera. "The cops are outside. They've surrounded my house. But I didn't do anything. I'm just their headline for the day." According to the Los Angeles Times, he was arrested later that afternoon, released after posting $250,000 bail, and never formally charged. Yet the image of Chris Brown and the police flooded CNN, TMZ, and Fox News. The case closed without conviction, but the public had already made up its mind. Chris Brown, the man forever in the eye of the storm. Still, despite the endless scandals, Chris Brown continued to break records. He became the first male artist in RIAA history, with 20 multi-platinum singles. His combined revenue from music tours and business ventures surpassed $150 million by 2017, according to Forbes. He embraced his bad boy persona, but no one could deny his dominance. No artist in modern R&B could replace him. By the time he turned 30, Chris Brown was no longer the kid he once was. From Indigo 2019 to Breezy 2022, he stayed at the top of his game. His Under the Influence World Tour 2023 grossed over $90 million, and his upcoming Breezy Bowl XX Tour 2025 is projected to exceed $120 million, making him one of the highest-grossing R&B artists of all time. Yet Chris Brown has never escaped one-word controversy. Every time he thinks the past has stayed behind, it finds its way back, louder than ever. The Secrets Unveiled. Paris 2019. the scandal that shocked Europe. In January 2019, Chris Brown was in Paris to record music and shoot for a fashion campaign. But on the morning of January 22nd, French police suddenly arrested him and two others at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, following accusations made by a 24-year-old woman. BBC and CNN reported that the case involved an alleged assault on a woman inside a hotel room. Brown was detained for 24 hours for questioning. On January 23rd, after reviewing the evidence, the Paris prosecutor's office released him without charge, stating that there was not enough legal basis for prosecution. That same night, Chris posted a black background on Instagram with a bold white caption, "This but she lyin'. This is against everything I believe in. My mother, my daughter. This is disrespectful to them." The post spread globally, garnering over 2 million shares within hours. The Guardian summed it up: Chris Brown was cleared, but his image was once again placed on the scales of justice and public opinion. No charges were ever filed. But since that day, every time he steps foot in Europe, the media still whispers the same two words: Paris 2019, a scar that refuses to fade. He thought the Paris storm had passed. But 4 years later, one night in London would shake the world once again. London, 2023, 2025. When a bottle of tequila became a weapon. On February 19, 2023, at Tape nightclub in London's Mayfair district, a playground for the elite of the music world, Chris Brown attended a private party with friends. According to police reports, he allegedly struck music producer Abraham Diao with a bottle of Don Julio 1942 tequila, leaving the victim unconscious. Chris left London before his arrest, but in May 2025, while preparing for his Breezy Bowl XEX tour in Manchester, police raided the Lowry Hotel and arrested him that night. He was later released after posting $5 million, approximately $6.7 million USD bail, one of the highest ever in an artist-related civil case. On July 11th, Chris appeared at Southwark Crown Court and calmly stated, "Not guilty, ma'am." The Guardian described the moment. A man who once stood atop the Grammys now walked into court under a storm of camera flashes. But this time, no one applauded. The trial is scheduled for late 2026. Since then, every concert in Europe has opened with the same question: will this be the last time he ever takes the stage? While the London case remained unresolved, another lawsuit erupted back home in America. The lawsuits, from $50 million to $500 million. On September 10, 2024, 4 concertgoers filed a lawsuit against Chris Brown and Live Nation after his show at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. According to court documents during the concert, when Chris shouted, "Everybody jump," the crowd began pushing and shoving. Some claimed that his security team assaulted fans in an attempt to control the chaos. 4 people were injured. The plaintiffs demanded $50 million in damages, accusing Chris's team of negligent security and inciting violent behavior. Chris's camp denied the allegations. It was a crowd accident, not an attack. But images of bleeding fans outside the venue quickly went viral, becoming a new symbol of the dark side of million-dollar tours. People magazine wrote, "Chris Brown is fighting on 2 fronts: the stage and the courtroom." Then, in a stunning move, Chris went on the offensive. In June 2025, he filed a $500 million lawsuit against Warner Brothers. Discovery accusing the company of defamation over its docuseries, A History of Violence, which portrayed him as a man with a pattern of violent behavior dating back to 2009. In his lawsuit, he wrote, "I've made mistakes, but I'm not the man they're trying to paint me as. I will not let Hollywood define who I am." Warner Brothers responded, "The series is based on public records and verified witness accounts. We stand by the freedom of the press." The media quickly dubbed it the $500 million war between a star and Hollywood, calling it one of the most anticipated entertainment lawsuits of 2026, a battle between a man fighting against public perception and a media giant defending its version of history. Paris, London, Texas, Hollywood. Wherever there are bright lights, there is another courtroom. And at the center of it all stands Chris Brown, defendant, plaintiff, and symbol all at once. But among all the lawsuits and scandals, what hurts Chris the most isn't the flashing police lights. It's the people he once loved, love scandals, and the restraining order. Caro Etchitran, the most tearful love story in R&B. They met in 2011 when Chris Brown was trying to start over after the scandal with Rihanna. Karrueche Tran, a Vietnamese-American model and stylist, was just 23 at the time, petite, soft-spoken, and genuine. In an interview, she once said, "I saw that he was lonely. Behind all that light, there was someone who was scared. They truly loved each other. But the world doesn't forget easily." Every time they appeared together, paparazzi shouted, "The girl who replaced Rihanna." The shadow of the past was too heavy, and Chris Brown, caught between pressure and impulse, couldn't stay balanced. In 2012, they broke up for the first time. In 2013, they got back together. Then in 2014, Chris publicly confirmed that he had a daughter with another woman, Nia Guzman, while still in a relationship with Karrueche. She walked away silently. But the story didn't end there. After their breakup, Chris reportedly sent messages, showed up at her house, and even appeared uninvited at events she attended. In 2017, Karrueche filed for a restraining order in Los Angeles, accusing him of threats and physical abuse in the past. The court granted her request, ordering Chris Brown to stay at least 100 yards, about 90 meters away from her. The restraining order lasted 5 years until 2022. When the ruling was announced, Chris said nothing. It was no longer just a scandal, it was proof that some wounds never truly heal, no matter how much time passes. Love affairs, restraining orders, leaked messages. All of it made Chris Brown one of the most controversial figures of the 21st century. But if you look closely, the secret crimes here were not crimes of law, but crimes of the heart, mistakes in love, bursts of emotion, and a fear of loneliness buried too deep. In a rare 2022 interview, Chris said, "I'm not perfect. I just never had time to heal before I had to perform." The words sounded like a confession, but also like the cry of a man who had gone too far down his own path. After all the scandals, the courtrooms, and the endless flashes of cameras, he now faces something simpler and harder: love and responsibility, private life, marriage, and children. Chris Brown has 3 children, 3 milestones that completely changed his life. His first daughter, Royalty Brown, was born on May 27, 2014. At the time, the world didn't know, and neither did he. News of Chris's child broke nearly a year later, striking like lightning across Hollywood. Royalty's mother, Nia Guzman, was a model from Texas. When DNA tests confirmed Chris's paternity, headlines screamed, "Chris Brown, from bad boy to father." From that moment, Royalty became the center of his world. His 2015 album Royalty bore her name, a declaration that said, "You're the reason I'm still singing." The image of him holding his daughter on the album cover wasn't just PR. It was a soft confession from a man once defined by violence. He could love even if clumsily. In 2019, another child was born, his son Aiko Katori Brown, with Amika Harris. Chris posted a photo of a tiny hand gripping his finger with the caption, "He just stole my whole face." Aiko looked so much like his father that social media erupted. But for Chris, what mattered most was the sense of beginning again. Being a dad teaches you to take care of someone else, while you're still learning how to take care of yourself, he once said. Amika lived in Germany, so for the first few years, Chris only saw Aiko through video calls. Whenever he had a European tour, he would fly to Germany just for a few hours to see his son, short moments, but the rare, peaceful fragments of his life. Then in 2022, the world met lovely Symphony Brown, his 3rd child, with model Diamond Brown. She was born in January 2022, and months later, Chris confirmed his paternity with an Instagram post, a photo, and a single purple heart emoji. For Lovely's first birthday, he threw a lavish pink and white party filled with roses and balloons. Photos flooded social media, and for the first time in years, the world saw Chris Brown smiling gently. 3 children, 3 mothers, each one a piece of the man he's become. From an artist once known for rage, Chris learned to listen to, soften to care. He once said, "I have a co-parenting job that's pretty amazing. Learning how to be a dad, especially learning how to take care of somebody else. I barely know how to brush my teeth in the morning." Yet peace has never lasted long for Chris Brown. Between tours and fame, the paparazzi still catch him beside new women, and the public never stops judging. He has never been married, never spoken about a future wife. When asked, Chris simply smiled. "I'm married to my music and my kids." When every door closed, music remained the only key: the redemption and the rebirth. In the years that followed, Chris threw himself into music as if searching for himself again. His 2017 album Heartbreak on a Full Moon with 45 songs was an emotional journey of heartbreak, self-discovery, and healing. Then came Indigo 2019 and Breezy 2022, proof that he never stopped. "I'm still here. Still singing. Still fighting," he said. For Breezy, over 250 songs were recorded his way of burning the past and choosing music as his only redemption. When the scandals no longer overshadowed everything, Chris returned stronger than ever to the global stage. The Under the Influence World Tour 2023 and the upcoming Breezy Bowl XYEC 2025 show his enduring power. His album 1111 continued his streak, 12 consecutive albums charting in the US top 10. 2 decades later, Chris Brown remains a living symbol of modern R&B. Over 140 million records sold worldwide. More than 100 major awards from Grammys and Billboard to BTAMA and MTV VMAs. Over 10 billion global streams. He is recognized as the most successful R&B artist of his generation, a man who redefined what it means to be a multi-talented superstar. If the 2010s were his era of redemption, the 2020s became the era of empire, not on the charts, but in the extravagant world he built for himself. "Fame can burn away," he once said, "but money always finds a way to survive." Chris Brown's $1 million empire. Chris Brown entered the music world at an early age, and his finances grew alongside his fame. As of 2025, his net worth is estimated at around $50 million, though some reports suggest it could be much higher, between 60 and 100 million. While many artists of his generation faced financial collapse, Chris Brown chose a different path: real estate. In 2015, he purchased a $4.3 million mansion in Tarzana, California, which the media famously dubbed the Smart Fortress. The estate spans nearly 16,000 square meters, equipped with 16 security cameras, a private pool, a recording studio, a basketball court, and a garage housing more than 10 luxury cars. It wasn't just a house, it was a statement. From a poor boy in Tappahannock, who once lived in a small apartment where his mother worked at a daycare, he now stands on the balcony overlooking Los Angeles, the same city that once burned him now beneath his feet. The garage of this rebel prince is equally extravagant. Inside, he owns a jaw-dropping car collection: a Bugatti Veyron, a Lamborghini Aventador, a Rolls-Royce Wraith, along with several custom-painted cars featuring graffiti designs he created himself. He once joked, "I don't need a museum, my garage is the art exhibit." At one point, he reportedly spent $1.5 million customizing interiors and paint jobs based on Dragon Ball Z, his favorite childhood anime. Rolling Stone described it best: "Chris Brown lives like a kid with an adult's bank account." Despite industry boycotts following the 2009 incident, Chris Brown remains one of the best-selling Black artists in the world. From 2005 to 2025, he has sold more than 140 million records globally, accumulated over 10 billion streams, and performed at hundreds of shows. His Under the Influence World Tour 2023 grossed over $90 million, while the upcoming Breezy Bowl X 2025 is projected to surpass $120 million, a figure even pop megastars envy. His performance fee now ranges from $400,000, $500,000 per show in the US, and up to $1 million per show in Europe and the Middle East. Music brought him wealth, but Chris didn't stop there. He launched his own fashion label, Black Pyramid, specializing in streetwear t-shirts, jackets, and accessories, and invested in restaurants and Burger King franchises. Not all of his ventures were smooth, though. In 2024, people reported that he owed $2 million to a bank, related to a failed Popeyes franchise deal. But for a man who once lost everything, debt is just a temporary storm. If you've ever watched Chris Brown perform, you've seen the lights reflect not only off his sweat, but off millions in diamonds. His jewelry collection includes pieces from Richard Mille Audemar's Piguet and Patek Philippe, along with dozens of custom diamond chains. Among artists, Chris is also known as an avid contemporary art collector, spending hundreds of thousands on works by KWS and Takashi Murakami and painting graffiti himself. One room in his Tarzana mansion, which he calls the Art Cave, is covered wall-to-wall with his own artwork. Perhaps the most remarkable part of Chris's lavish lifestyle isn't the money itself, but how he's tried to turn it into a home. His Tarzana estate includes a playground for his daughter Royalty, a skate ramp for Aiko, and a pink-painted bedroom for Lovely. Whenever he posts photos of his kids on Instagram, he captions them with the same line, "They are the reason why I work like I'm still broke." From the man once called the monster of showbiz, he now proudly shows off a fridge full of baby food and a backyard playground. That is the new image of Chris Brown, a man who can wear $2 million in diamonds around his neck, yet still kneel down to tie his daughter's shoes. After 2 decades, the stage lights still shine on Chris Brown's face. His eyes no longer defiant, but reflective, carrying the look of someone who has known both glory and hell. No matter how history may judge him, no one can deny Chris Brown's impact on modern music. He is the bridge between 2 eras, between Michael Jackson's classic stage mastery and today's digital pop culture rhythm. From Run It, With You and Forever to Under the Influence and Go Crazy, his music captures the spirit of modern America, youthful, passionate, complicated, and sometimes angry. Rolling Stone once wrote, "Chris Brown isn't just a singer, he's a cultural storm, beautiful, fierce, and impossible to ignore. And though scandal may cloud his name, he remains the most successful R&B artist of his generation, surpassing countless peers in both sales and influence." Chris Brown's legacy isn't about perfection, it's about truth. The raw story of a man who was a genius, a sinner, a survivor. And perhaps that is the true price of glory.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore. Stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.